Hi guys, good morning everyone. So today we are going to discuss about the React flow in a simple way. So let's get started. So before going to the details of implementation, we want to know what is RAG. So RAG is basically stands for retrieval augmented generation. So that means which refers to a technique. It is a technique that enhances the capabilities of LLM by allowing it to access and reference external information sources like knowledge base before generating a response, resulting accurate and contextual relevant outputs. So it means like if this is a question asked by a person, then the LLM will take help of this knowledge base. Knowledge base is like all the documents are stored here, all the information. LLM will use this knowledge base to get the relevant documents for these questions, and then it will augment that information to its response and generate a new response and send it to the user. So this is the basic flow. Let's go into details, like what we are going to implement here is basically, so this is a user. As you can see, the user submits a query to the RAG system. And the RAG system, what it will do, it will first send the document, read the documents. First it will read the documents from the sources, then sends the documents and chunk to the chunk function. So what it will do here in this, so this function will read the documents and break the document into small pieces and send it back to the RAG system. Then this RAG system will send the chunks document to embedded functions. So embedding function is like changing the text and the documents into small vectors, and then these vectors are sent back to the RAG system. Once this is done, at this point, this will combine with the query. So user submits some query. Suppose user submits as a document, it can be a user story or it can be any type of story. So this, at this point, the story is vectorized. Okay, and the user asks a question like summary the document. So this question is the query and the vectorized document that is coming from the knowledge base, which together sends to the LLM. Now LLM will read, augment the response and generate a new response, and that will be returned as an answer to the user. So this is a very simple flow we are going to do. We are not using any vector database, anything like that. So very simple flow. Okay, so the following steps we will follow. The first one is the import libraries. So let's go hands-on and see. Here this is the basic flow that the user will use the RAG system, connect with the LLM to generate and get the data, the response back. So we'll go into much simpler form before we code. So this is the starting point. The user is basically submitting a document which is part of the knowledge base. This document is used by the model, which is basically the embedded model, which is coming from the Huggingface. And then we embed the document form in a vectorized data and then send it to LLM. So along with that, we are sending the user query. The query might be the summarize the document. These documents and the embedded document along with the user query is sent to LLM. LLM is using a model which is basically LLM model and running in the Groq cloud, and that will help you to generate a response and send back to the user. Okay, so this is basic flow that we are going to develop now. The first part of the development is the import libraries. So we will see here there are so many libraries we need to import. One is the Groq, one is the .NET environment, and then is the Huggingface. The first step is the setup. Second, we have so many imports. What you can see here, this is the Groq, this is the .environment. So what is this one? .environment. .environment is the environment variable, environment file .env, where we want to set up all the keys when we are trying to connect with the different APIs. So in our case, we are using Groq and we are using Huggingface. So we have a key setup here, and the key value will come from the Huggingface on the Groq website. Okay. So we are using an embedding from the Huggingface, and this is the library. We have a character splitter, and for splitting the characters. Then we have a Groq, which will help you to connect with the Groq cloud. Then we have a path. This library will help you to read the documents from the path in our local folders. This is the directory loader, which will help to load the directory, and this is the text loader, load the file that we are going to read, the story. This is the LangChain hub, help us to import a different prompts which may be coming from the LangChain hub itself. It is online. You can use the custom prompt. That is basically this library will help you to use the custom prompt template. Then for output, we have the string output parser, and this is the runnable pass-through, which will help you to chain multiple actions that we will be doing for the RAG pipelines. And this is another class which will help you to communicate between the parameters when we are passing the input, the user questions, and the story. So we'll go into these two details once we come to the end of the lecture. So first is the setup. So let's run this one. So it is still running. Import is done. Then we are going to set up the environment. For environment setup, we are using the keys that we are loading the keys from the .environment file. Run this one. Now we create the LLM instances from the Groq. So from the Groq, as I mentioned, this is the LLM instance that we will be using, and this is the model that we will be using. So let's run it and load it. Now for Huggingface, we are using this key to connect with the Huggingface, and the model that we'll be using for embedding that is in the Huggingface is this is the model. Okay. Now we can test this embedding model whether it works fine or not. So we have a simple text here, and we just call the embeddings. This is the embedding instance, and then embed query with this passing the text, and we want to see whether it is embedded or not. Okay, so this looks good. That means it is able to connect with the Huggingface and use this model, and a basic test. Now we are going to next part is read the PDF or the text file. So this is our story, which is in this folder. We're going to load this one to our using the directory loader. So very simple, we are loading this from that location. Then we get the instance of the directory loader, and now the second step is we are splitting the documents. If the document is very big, we are going to split the document in multiple pieces, multiple chunks, and this is done by the recursive character splitter. So run this one. Now I want to see how many splits has been done and what are the contents of those. So print this one. We can test and see how many splits are done and what is the content. Second part of the string is like, this is also part of a validation. We want to make sure that there is no special character. If it is there, we will split, we'll remove, and then we'll make the document clean and nicer. This part we are using the prompt template. So now at this point, we have the document ready for feeding into the LLM embedded document. Now so that means if we see here, we covered this part. So this part is done till this point. It is done. Now we will be using this section. This is the query section. So this is the prompt that we are accessing from the online. Now you can also create your own custom prompt, and the basic structure for the prompt is this is the context you have to mention. Then you have the questions that you're going to ask, and this is the context. Based on that, it will give you an answer which will come in this line. So you can instantiate, create your own custom prompt template. Now the document that we have given, we need a little bit of formatting to remove some special character, as I mentioned earlier. We're going to do that. Okay, at this point we remove the special character, and now at the last section we are going to build a RAG pipeline. So this is the code that will help you to create the RAG pipeline. So what it means, so let's go in details and see what it means. And before we go into details, so we can see here that we already covered import libraries, environment setup, PDF, read the PDF file or the text file, then split the documents into chunks, and then create the prompt. And now we are at this phase, creating a LangChain, build RAG pipeline. So what it means is basically, so if you notice here, there are following contents. First section is the content, which is the runnable lambda, and there we are passing the formatted document. So what is runnable lambda? Runnable lambda is used to wrap the lambda function that takes an input and returns a value. So it will take the input and return a value. In this case, this is the input, formatted document, the document coming from the knowledge base. In our case, it is a story. Especially it is a part of the data pipeline, which transforms and processes the input in the flow. So it will read the file and then process it further. This is the lambda function. Then we have this one, which is the questions, prompt, LLM, and standard output. So this is a pass-through, runnable pass-through, which simply forwards the user questions as is to the next step. So user questions, if you are submitting a question, it will send the question directly to the prompt, to the next step. So there is no embedding happening here. Next is the prompt. The prompt is basically it is user query, and that query is directly sent to LLM. No vectorization is done here. LLM that we know already, we are using the LLM that is coming from the that is a Groq cloud. It is hosted in the Groq cloud. We're using that, and then we have a standard output parser which will print the output. So at this point we have run this one, and this is ready. Now we are going to invoke. So this is the instance of the RAG chain, and invoke what is the moral of the story. If we ask this question, it will give me answer. We can also write the summary of the story in 2 lines. It will also give you the summary of the story in 2 lines. Let's customize this to make it 3 lines. Let's see what it does. Yes, it is giving me 1, 2, and 3 sentences to customize, to summarize the story. So thanks for watching the video.